Hello, my friends. Good morning. Happy Tuesday. It was pouring with rain earlier on and the sun's shining now. It's incredible, extraordinary. It's rained pretty heavily in San Diego for about the last 4 or 5 days. It's been very, very strange, very consistent, steadily heavy rain. And I say this particularly for the people that live in areas that think that San Diego is always perfect and glorious, because it isn't. Anyway, you know my mission in life is to make your life easier, particularly your working life. I have lots of experience running businesses, with business administration, with new company startups, with affiliate marketing, with multi-level marketing, with sales generally, and marketing. And you know that I love to find systems that make your life easy. Why do I do this? Because you went into business to do something for the world, right? Your aim in life was to be a coach or health practitioner or nutritionist or plumber or dentist or something. That's why you went into business. And then it seems a lot of people who go into business then realize that being in business is actually more about running the business and doing the admin and getting the business running than doing the thing that you went into business to do. So instead of being a graphic designer, you're now an admin person. Now, some people think that's great. Hey, but a lot of people don't. So my mission in life is to help those people who don't think running a business is great, who actually want to be doing the thing that they're good at, the thing that they can do to serve the planet, and have the admin sort of much easier and much simpler. So I'm always looking for a way to make it easier and a way to make it simpler. And a couple of weeks ago, I told you about a to-do list, a way of using a to-do list that made it really, really simple. I love David Allen's Getting Things Done because I like detail. But even for me, there are days when it's just like, oh, this is too complicated. And when things are complicated, they're easier to not do. And that's not going to help the business. So I found this amazing way of using a to-do list, which is so simple and so easy that you'd almost think it couldn't possibly work. It's almost funny. But it actually really works. And I've been using it, and it is incredibly simple and straightforward. So I told you all about it a couple of weeks ago. The value of simplicity, because that is heaven for me, simplicity. And then I found another incredibly simple tool, or I was reintroduced in a new way or reminded of a tool that I've been using for years, but I hadn't thought it through. So I'm now presenting it to you in a new unit of time as a super tool. And don't laugh, because you've been doing this since you were a child, probably, like me, you just hadn't realized the significance of it. Before I go any further, who am I? Well, I'm Andrea Kuchin. And together with my fabulous business partner, I created a company called PhD in Follow-Up about 10 years ago. Our purpose was to help you with your follow-up, right? And then we realized that businesses often don't have a follow-up strategy or a marketing strategy, of which follow-up is part of it. And that's where it expanded. It grew into new things, bigger things, more things. Now we do tons of stuff, mostly to do with marketing, how to make more money, residual income, and more recently, even passive income. But today, well, okay, I'll carry on with who I am. If you have questions, comments, need support, want to introduce me to another idea, 858-252-1190. You can call or text 858-252-1190. You can email me at Andrea Kuchin, at PhD and Andrea at PhD and follow-up. Andrea at PhD and follow-up. Is that what it says on the screen? Better double check. Andrea at PhD and follow-up. And to find out more about what we do, phdandfollowup.com/Andrea Kuchin. Okay, right. What is this? Yeah, it's a checklist. And you've probably been using them since you were little. They probably had some kind of a checklist at school or on your bedroom wall. Your mum put one to make sure that you put your clothes on in the right order, or that you did your homework, or that whatever it was. They are so simple and so well used that people don't realize how beneficial they are. So let me describe something to you. I don't know this from personal experience. No, because I've never flown a plane. I've flown a glider, but I don't remember that being part of it. I've never flown a plane. But I've seen enough films, TV shows, read books to know that they do something called a flight check or a pre-flight check or something, where they actually have a list and they go down and they check off all the things they need to check before the plane takes flight. Now, why do they do that? They do the same thing every single time they take off. Sometimes several times a day. Not all flights are very long. Some flights are very short and they might do several flights in a day. Why do they have a checklist of things to check off? Well, because if they forget even the smallest thing, they could end up crashing and killing people. It's because it is so important that they have a checklist, not because it's insignificant. Somehow the idea of a checklist in many people's minds has got caught up with insignificant. It's not important. But that's actually the opposite of what's true. The more important something is, the more necessary it is to have a checklist. There's a story, I'll see if I can find the link, but there's a story, this happened in a TED Talk, of a hospital administrator, or maybe it was a surgeon, but they implemented checklists for surgery. What you do at the beginning of surgery, what you do after surgery. They implemented them for the A&E department for when accident victims come in. And just the implementation of checklists for things they were already doing dozens of times a day dramatically increased the number of people who survived, right? It was life-changing. It had a more dramatic effect on the people who went through that hospital than any drug they ever introduced. Okay, what does that tell you? When you have to do something really important, you need a checklist. Your business is really important. You need a checklist. I have found that using a checklist speeds up my ability to get things done to an incredible degree, actually, because I don't have to remember or think all the same reasons that I've been promoting getting things done all these years. Same thing. You don't have to think. Thinking wastes time. You know why Steve Jobs and Donald Trump and people like that always wear the same clothes, right? They've got 50 black roll neck sweaters and 50 pairs of jeans. And all they have to do in the morning is go to the wardrobe and pick out the sweater and the jeans. Don't have to think about it. I mean, how many times have we stood in front of the wardrobe going, when you remove decision making and having to think about something from your environment, you can be so much more productive. Checklists do that. You don't have to think, you just have to follow. So having a checklist is going to guarantee that you don't ever forget anything. So what I recommend you do is go through your important activities like onboarding a client. Where's your checklist for onboarding a new client? What do you need to make sure is done? Write it down on a checklist or a check sheet and use it. Have it there. Check off each of the items. It's really, really simple. It's so simple and so straightforward that we don't take it seriously. Just like the to-do list hack that I gave you a couple of weeks ago in the value of simplicity, which I thought was a one-off. But it turns out that there are lots of really simple things I can give you. So that was part one. To-do lists. This is part two, checklists. Now, and I'm going to talk about part three already now, and I'm going to talk about it more next time. Part three would be templates. Now, in this context, you want templates that you can repeat. And there are many, many different ways of doing that. You can actually write them out as a Word document or a proper document, and you just reprint them every day. Or you could create a spreadsheet which has all those things on, that has 5 columns or 10 columns or 7 columns if you do them 7 days a week. And then you just check them off for Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, so on and so forth. That's how I do it. Because the things I do every day, I do every day. That's not the case with onboarding a client. Obviously, I wouldn't be doing that every single day. So the client onboarding or doing the financials at the end of the month or the bookkeeping at the end of the week, these should all have templates that you can reprint. Or if you use an online system like your notes app in iCloud, or your Keep in, or your checklist in Keep, or the task list in Google, or your to-do thing list in Microsoft, or whatever it is that you're using, and you can put checklists anywhere pretty much. You can put checklists in Evernote, you can put checklists in Notion. You check, you literally press and it puts a check mark in when you've done it. And then you can set it so that it hides completed items or that it shows completed items. So you can have it hide completed items so that the checklist shrinks as the day progresses. And then at the end of the day, you go through and you uncheck everything and it's ready for tomorrow. Or if you're super smart and a very clever programmer, you program it so that you're doing it every day, and then it brings it back onto the list again for you the next day. But when you just go through a list every day and check off what you've done, 2 things happen. 3 things happen. You get everything done. You don't forget anything unless you deliberately don't do it. You are reminded of all those little extra pieces that go with something, right? When you're creating a new landing page, you know exactly what needs to go on that workflow, for example. Or like I said before, onboarding a client, going through your social media, remembering all of the individual accounts that you've got, that kind of thing. You don't forget anything when it's on a checklist, right? That's the first thing. Secondly, you do everything because it's right there in front of you telling you to do it. And it's simple. So you just go, oh, right, okay, that's next, check that off. And then that's next and check that off. It's easy. You actually get stuff done. So you become way more productive. And the third thing, and this is just as important as the other two, you actually feel good doing stuff. Because the action of checking things off, especially on a piece of paper, but even on an electronic device, actually makes you feel good. There is a satisfying feeling that comes from checking things off because they've been done. And in fact, I sometimes find that I check things off because I'm actually deliberately not going to do that today, but I want it off the list, out of the way. And that still gives me a good feeling because I've made the decision whether I'm going to do that today or not. For example, I might not want to post to Facebook every single day, but it's on my list. It's on my list so that I remember, because I've got several different pages and several different accounts, and I might be working on a client project which involves posting to Facebook 3 or 4 times a week. And today might be the day I'm not going to do it. So I'll check it off my list because I'm acknowledging that that item has been dealt with. Either I decided not to do it or I did it. But that feeling of checking things off actually makes me feel good. So at the end of the day, I actually feel as though I've achieved something. So those three things are, I don't forget anything anymore because it's always on a piece of paper or a list somewhere. And of course, it's essential that you find one place for all those lists. Otherwise, you're not going to remember to look at one of the lists. Everything gets done, right? I don't miss the slightest thing. I actually do all of the things because it's not floating around in the ether somewhere and then it gets forgotten about. It's right in my face. And in fact, I've got reminders on my phone. So every 5 minutes, I have another thing to do and it goes ping, ping, ping. And it's like, oh, what's next on the list? What's next on the list? I know somebody, Tanya Aliza, actually, she uses an app that is designed for interval training, which actually gives her a length of time to do something and then pings the next one, right? And she goes through it that way. So she's on a timer and she's given herself, I don't know, 2 minutes to brush her teeth, right? And 3 minutes to do a makeup or whatever it is. She actually has it for really basic things to get her morning routine down and done. So you can use an interval training app if that is what makes it work for you. But put everything in one place, all your lists in one place. Obviously, if you're using an interval app for your morning routine on your phone, you don't need to have that somewhere else as well. But if you're going to use your phone because you're a digital person, use your phone for everything. If you want everything on a piece of paper so that you can print it out and check it off by hand, which I have to say is the way that I prefer doing it, but I've got to back up because I'm obsessive. And I don't need you to be obsessive. That's what simplifying is about. It's about making life simple. When you're obsessive, you tend to do too much of too many things. Anyway, so that's what I recommend that you do. Keep checklists and create them so that they can be recreated. Templates, if you like, that are either reprinted every day or every week or every month, or for a particular occasion, or you pull them up on your notes app, whether that's iCloud or Notion or Evernote or Keep in Google, whatever it is. I suggest you create templates that can be reused, because that makes life simple too. And we'll be talking more about templates on another day. So that's it for today. The important thing about these things that I'm telling you about is that you might have overlooked them because they seem too easy and too obvious, especially in our high electronic universe. But you mustn't underestimate them just because they seem kindergarten style, primary school style. They have value. They save lives. They really made a difference in that hospital to the number of patients that were coming out alive, more than any drug that they tried. Okay, so the suggestion there is that more than any kind of fancy thing you can come up with, a checklist, a good old-fashioned checklist, could make the difference of you having a productive day or not. And that, my friends, is it for today. So thank you so much for joining me. Again, I'm Andrea Kuchin. You can email or you can text or call me on 858-252-1190. Text or call me 858-252-1190. You can email me, Andrea at phdandfollowup.com. Andrea at phdandfollowup.com. You can find out more about all the services and products that we offer on phdandfollowup.com/Andrea Kuchin. And of course, you're probably already in the Facebook group watching this, although you might be catching it in various other places. So join our Facebook group. It's free, and you can find the trainings here every week. All right, that is it for today, my friends. Thank you so much for joining me. I love it when you're here with me. And I look forward to seeing you again. Same place, same time next week. Bye-bye.